that.
Gary, let me ask you this question. What would be some important tips that the audience should know when they visit a community? What would be some questions and things that they should look out for?
Well, the first thing I do is when someone comes in to visit us is I sit down with them and I spend time to find out what is driving their decision first off to move to a community and what their needs are, whether it's independent or assisted living. I just don't want to cook anymore. Well, great. We provide 3 or more meals a day in our dining room. So to find out what your actual needs and wants are and see that the community meshes with what you desire. We talk about socialization. That's incredibly important for your well-being. Difference between your private home that you're living in and you want to go out feet first, as Nancy said, is when you're younger and you have children and you have family coming to visit or friends coming to visit, it's a hub. But as you age, your friends disappear, they move on, they pass away, and you get left alone, and all of a sudden you're not driving anymore. So it becomes your own isolation, your own little prison, where in a community, it's so important when you walk out of your apartment, you're in a community, there's socialization. The dining room is probably the most important part of a community. 3 or more meals a day, you all have to eat to sustain life, but you also have to have socialization to thrive. As Charmaine's saying and Susan's saying, the socialization is very important. And I say life happens around the dining table. Laughter, planning, all kinds of good friendships. So that's all
great.
part of it.
That's great, Gary.
Can I add to that a little
Yes,
bit?
please.
So you're going to want to find, as Gary said, find out about ask to see a calendar, a whole month's worth of activities. There are some communities who offer just a minimum, and there are some communities who offer 5 or 6 things to do every day. Make sure that the kinds of things they're offering are things that address your interests. So look at a calendar. Thank you, beautiful.
The Villages has theirs.
Right, and Narrow Garden has there, and they're chock-a-block full of things to do. Just be sure that they're varied enough that they'll address your concerns, because everybody's different. Some people want to write memoirs, some people want to join a meditation group, some people want to go to the Performing Arts Center to see the latest comedian. Those things are important to them, so ask to see a calendar to be sure that they're the kinds of things that you'll enjoy. Talk about price as well. That would be key, because what I find is that an awful lot of people don't build in. We have annual rent increases. They're not very steep, but they do occur. And so find out going forward how long your money's going to last with our or anyone else's prices. Transportation, as Nancy suggested, is really important too. Find out how robust that transportation program really is. Do they only go out twice a week, and are you going to be limited from 10 to 2? Or are they going to have drivers available 9 to 5 to take you not just to doctors and dentists, but also to the movies and to have lunch with your kids? So the transportation program, ask those kinds of deeper questions. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I would just encourage you to read the contracts and make sure when you read the contracts that you're comparing apples with apples, because no one's trying to deceive you, at least none of the people that we would refer you to, but it's just important to go through that contract and make sure that you understand exactly what it says. Another thing to watch out for would be to look at the staff ratios, as Charmaine was talking about earlier. If you have a loved one that's going into a neighborhood type living arrangement, it's one staff member for every 3 residents, which is pretty awesome, especially if you're dealing with memory care issues. But that's important in whatever aspect that you decide to go for. How long have the employees been there? What's their tenure? And what's their complaint procedure? You know, if you don't like what things are going on, I mean, are you going to be able to speak up? And is there a process? And is that process handled by a resident group or by the staff? It's just good to know these things. And do they have emergency procedures in place for earthquake or fire? So that I just wanted to make sure to add those because I was thinking quite a bit about that just recently. But all three of you have really covered this fifth question, but I'm just going to have you run through it quickly anyway. And this is going to be your opportunity to let people know why they should call you. Yours would be a little different, Charmaine. Why would someone want to move to a neighborhood community? And maybe I'll start with you, and then I'm going to ask Gary and Susan why someone would want to move into their community.
So we've heard about the different types of assisted living. The larger communities provide care as well. But when it gets to where they need two caregivers to help you out of bed, then we need to look at the small home-like settings because they can do the highest care. And nowadays, you don't even need to, go to skilled nursing, only like for rehab, unless you really need medical injections, a feeding tube. But most people don't want those for their loved one anyway, so that you can stay in a homey-like setting. And say that question again. I maybe went off on a tangent.
No, you're actually doing really well.
So what would sometimes an event happens, and a stroke or Parkinson's or ALS or cancer, and the loved one has stayed at home so long they've bypassed, or an event has happened, the larger communities, and they need the small homey-like settings where they get that one-on-one care for their care that they're going through. And that will be their home to end of life care, even though it's month to month with a 30-day notice. It will become their home, and they'll get the highest level of care that they need. Hospice can come in at the very end, and even to the larger communities, they have hospice waivers, they call them, but the homes have hospice, so they never have to leave and go to skilled nursing after they've lived in the little 6 beds for 5 years or whatever. They can just remain there, and which makes it really nice. And then the larger communities, I'll let you speak on that.
Okay. Our community, why choose us was the question. I consider it a big horse race. In most horse races, there are about 18 different horses. Everyone, bets on their own horse. Everyone likes a different community for a different reason. We believe we're the thoroughbred on the block. We have a very competitive villages. The one thing about Merrill Gardens different than the villages is we have independent living and assisted living, just like they do. However, we don't have it segregated, independent and then assisted. When you move into our community, you can make that your forever home and stay there from independent to assisted living without having to make a move to assisted living area or building. All of our apartments are licensed for that care. So you can move in independently, age in place, and get services when you need it right through the end of life with hospice care. We also have a memory care, and that's the only time that a person would need to move from their apartment is if they get a diagnosis of dementia. Because in an independent living and an assisted living area is not conducive and not safe for someone with dementia. Ours is all located on one 16-acre property. Everything is right there. The great thing is you move into your apartment, you need help in the future, and you can get it without having to make another move.
Good point. And so when I have people who are investigating our community and have assisted living needs, our apartments in our assisted living building are sometimes not large enough to accommodate, say, a couple, in which case I would refer them to Gary's community, because he does have cottages and apartments that are suitable for couples and that also offer assisted living care. So it's a very good point to have been made. In our community, we do separate people who need assisted living live in one building, and people who are only interested in independent retirement live in a different building. It's all on the same campus, but they are different buildings. We find that works really well for us, but it doesn't work well for everyone. Our community offers a variety of different settings, just like Gary's does. And again, our independent buildings, we have two of them, the Palms and the Oaks, do not offer assisted living services. And so it's important to know that coming in, that we do not offer care of any kind. Even if we wanted to grab a caregiver from across the driveway and bring them over to give you the help you need if you needed it, we're not allowed to. It's against the law. So it's a very good point to be made. At the Villages, we've been around for 30 years, and we do a lot of hand-holding in the beginning. We spend a lot of time with people to help you determine whether or not we are the right choice for you, both financially and socially, and address the needs that you have currently. And we do help you through the maze, as Nancy puts it. How can we help you sort through the maze? Well, we'll sit down and we'll cover every aspect with you. And if, in fact, communal living is not your cup of tea, we can make other recommendations, or I can send you back to Charmaine, and we'll find a different, she'll help you find a different setting. But we do have very well-trained folks in our communities. We've been around for 30 years. We've got a very good reputation, and again, we offer the 3 levels of care, but we don't offer skilled nursing. So, but we do work very closely to the 2 skilled nursing communities in San Luis Obispo. So if you ever do get to a point where you need skilled nursing services, we are happy to help you make that transition.
Great. Thank you, Susan. And our last question is, what are some of the reasons you hear from people who visit your communities but don't end up making the move?
I'll just give you 2 sentences here, just really quick, and I'll pass it over to Gary. What I hear most often when people come through my doors is, yeah, we really like your community, we really like this particular apartment, but oh my gosh, we have got so much to do. I've got to sort and sell and store, and my kids and the house and the grounds, and it's overwhelming. People are absolutely overwhelmed. They've lived, like many of you, in the same home for anywhere between 20 and 50 years or more, and the idea of downsizing and moving to a community like ours just feels really overwhelming. To that I say, make the move first and sort and sell later. First of all, because your home will be easier to stage and sell if you're not in it. And secondly, because it's not as overwhelming as you might think. There are lots of family members and other professionals who can help you with that. And what I hear secondly most often is 2 weeks after they move in with us, if it's the choice that they made carefully, they come to me and say, why didn't I do this sooner? Because life is so much easier and less stressful when the move is finally made and the hard part is done. So don't let the logistics of it overwhelm you.
Well, once again, I agree with Susan. The one question that we get, or the one statement that I get from people visiting us and touring with us, is when asked if they're ready, they're not ready yet. Well, what does that look like for you? That's different. Well, one person said, well, I don't have a cane or a walker, or I haven't fallen down yet. Well, we'd like to get you when you're vibrant and able to enjoy everything we have. Or the part of that question is, I'm not ready yet, or the answer, because they've lived in their house for 60 years, just like Susan said, and they're overwhelmed with a garage stacked to the ceiling with stuff that they've stored because their kids, moved on, but they want to leave this for later on when they get their own house to bring to them. And so they're overwhelmed with how much stuff they have to get rid of. The word is downsizing. The sooner you start, the better. And also, like Susan said, we tell people that they'll visit us, make the move first. Bring what you want. See how it fills the apartment. You'll be surprised at the size of our apartment, so you can bring even more furniture or things that you need. All right? Have your kids come in after you've made the move and say, you have 2 weeks or a month to clear out what you want and what you don't want. Because after that, I'm going to liquidate. And you have to do that. Then Nancy can come in with her staff, stage it for a quick sale. And you'd be amazed at how well that works.
Yes. And I might say that you can also call us in the very beginning, because we are downsizing coaches, and we will help you formulate a plan and connect you with the right people to sell the items in the home that you want to get rid of, and help you actually write down. Clarice, who I introduced earlier, will help you just write down to the sticky pads. I'm taking this, I'm leaving that. I'm taking this, I'm leaving that. Sell this. And we'll walk you through every single step to take that overwhelm out of the equation.
And we start out with a thorough evaluation, and socially, medically, financially, everybody is got something different, and mom's digging her heels in to going or looking at options. Usually we go with the kids first, narrow it down to 2 places. Another thing is the parents always feel like, I'll move into this community, my kids will never come visit me. The family can come visit, they encourage that, they have big barbecues and celebrate all the holidays and birthdays. Family can have meals with you, and visit anytime. But we are the experts. We've been around 23 years. We are going to help with the medical paperwork. We're going to help every step of the way. Downsizing, we know the people out there that are senior experts in doing this, just like Nancy had said. So we can refer and kind of hold your hand. We know these baby steps on how to get mom. She could even do a respite stay and just try it out and see how she likes it. Or maybe go for some activities or go for lunch, kick the tires kind of, and see how they like the food. And then they're introduced to another lady that's lived there that has similar interests as them. So we know how to help them out with that.
Thank you, Charmaine. Okay, great. Well, before I open it up for questions from the audience, is there anything that I forgot to ask you or that you'd like to add? Okay, great. Well, how about it? Does anyone have a question? Oh, wow. Okay, Kathy.
You talk about meals. Some people are diabetic, some have certain foods that they can eat and can't eat, allergies, this kind of thing. How are they prepared? This kind of thing. I mean, some of them have to have gluten-free, have to have allergies to peanuts, this kind of thing. How does the dietitian, I am assuming that you have dietitians in your services, how do they handle this and to be able to deal with your clients?
Okay, so Kathy was asking if there's any guidance for certain dietary restrictions.
At the villages, it depends on which community you move into. In independent living, we offer menus and choices with every single meal, and we have a wonderful executive chef who offers a really broad range of very fresh produce choices and things like that. We do not have a dietitian on staff. Ben is very knowledgeable, but he's not a bona fide dietitian. We do have one of those at Sydney Creek, our memory care community, and at Garden Creek, our assisted living community, and we can accommodate whatever the doctor's orders or the nutritionist's orders are for those folks. But in independent living, you have to make those choices yourself.
Okay.
So look at the menus and make educated choices depending on what your condition is like. But don't count on our servers to remember that you can't have gluten. It's
Right.
independent living.
Right.
In our community, we also don't have a dietitian on staff, but we do have one in our corporate office in Seattle that drives the menu. In our community, you have 16 different choices at each meal of good, healthy food to eat, whether it's fresh vegetables from a local grower, fish from the local markets here, and meats, etc. We have gluten-free choices. If you're diabetic and you're independent living, you have to be able to determine what is good for your diet. We have the choices on the menu. And unlike any community that I know, we offer a hot and cooked order meal 3 or more times a day. We say 3 or more because some people have to graze during the day
Right.
due to diabetes or something like that. Our dining room is actually open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And you can go in on your schedule, not on ours.
Okay, so next question. This one first.
Experience, long time ago, Charmaine.
Yes, I just,
Dealt with Charmaine in October for another family member where my stepfather was very high functioning, independent living, another needed memory care. And at the time, 20 years ago in Sacramento, there was nowhere we could put them other than 2 separate facilities. It was only a mile away, but it was a long, hard walk for my stepfather to go to memory care every day. Is there anything in either Merrill Gardens or the villages where you could accommodate people?
In Merrill Gardens, once again, we have 65 communities in 20 states now. All of our communities have a memory care. We have 3 that do not. Our memory care at Santa Maria is a separate gated community on the property.
Right.
So Dad would be walking across a driveway. He'd have an independent or an assisted living, which is the same with us.
Yeah.
Our apartments are independent / assisted living, meaning you age in place. And then his spouse, your mom, would be in the memory care, which is a secure location right on the property. The walk is not even a football field.
Yeah, that would have really helped out 20 years ago.
And at the villages, we do have a shuttle service. Our memory care community is actually across town, like Gary said, and nobody can walk from
No.
our independent to Sydney Creek. That's just not going to happen. I wouldn't even attempt to do that. But we do have vans that run all day long from 9 in the morning till 5 at night. And because Sydney Creek, which is our memory care community, is part of the village's family, we make every effort to make sure that spouses and loved ones who live with us are taken over to Sydney Creek to visit anytime they want. So that's how we manage it.
great.
Can I say one more thing? With our community also, all because mom's in memory care and dad's in independent, Dad wants to be able to bring his wife over and spend time, and he can do that.
Right.
We just would like him or need him to bring her back at night.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the danger part when he falls asleep, that she doesn't wander off. And that's great because we also have the ability to serve Dad or Mom in either dining room.
Charmaine, can we ask Joanne what her question? Did you have something to add to that?
What's your question?
I have 3.
Okay.
There's an organized
I
woman.
had a friend who moved to one of these facilities. She was there for 3 months, and she had finite amount of money.
Right.
She was there 3 months, and they upped the rent.
Oh, wow.
And another thing, number 2, are your employees bonded? And number 3 is, What about laundry facilities? Nobody mentioned that.
Yeah.
Okay,
And what do you do about that?
great questions.
Good questions. I'm going to let them speak to that, but I also want to speak to that last question. So if you've got one, usually we see with senior living consultants, one couple is trying to care for the other couple, and the stronger couple spirals down. So we have to find out their budget, because it might not be, we might need to look at a 6-bed home for the one that is needing the most care, and then the other one wants to go into independent living, and we have to look at their budget and see if that works with both of them being placed. A lot of the small board and care homes, they'll pick up the other one that's in independent living and take them to the small board and care home, and vice versa as well. And you can make a list in the small board and care homes of all their likes and dislikes with food and anything like that, and they'll prepare it. The small board and cares are more one-on-one, and they're one-on-one with the food too. So if they are gluten-free, they can do that in a 6-bed and that sort of thing. And now we're going to get to your question, Joanne.
Okay, to answer your question really quick, all of our staff has been fingerprinted, background checked through the Department of Justice. They're insured and bonded through our company. That's your question one. Part of that is we have some of the longest longevity as far as employees of close to 6 years, which is hard to find when you have caregivers. I have a caregiver at the community that has worked with us for going on 19 years now when it first opened. So we have people there a long time. Most of our management staff has been there between 6 and 14 years. That's to answer question one. You asked about laundry service, all right? Our housekeepers do the linens and towels for you. Our residents are responsible for their personal laundry. We have washers and dryers in 104 apartments out of the 200 that are independent and assisted living. We have laundry rooms on each floor of the south building, which are all free to use. But in the north building, almost all of the apartments have their own washers and dryers for your personal laundry.
So you don't have to put in quarters.
No quarters, just you have to bring your own soap suds.
Do you know how expensive it is to go to the laundromat now? We did that in Hawaii.
To address your third question about rent increases, and I'm sure Gary does the same thing, we are upfront about our anywhere between 3 and 5% annual rent increases when you walk through that door. It is a good idea to ask that question in case I forget that day to say something about that, and I'm perfectly capable of making that omission, but it is on all of our materials. There's a sticker on our brochures and on our big catalogs that have information about your annual rent increase. In the case of villages, we will impose a rent increase annually on the date of your move-in of anywhere between 3 and 5%, and you need to be able to expect that and plan for it. So really good question. And we shouldn't be hitting you over the head after 3 months with a big rent increase like your friend observed, and Gary has something to add.
If you look at California state law, places are allowed to increase your rent every 60 days if they give you 60-day notice. However, the larger places like the villages in Merrill Gardens will have an annual increase on your anniversary of arrival. Ours is also 3 to 5%. When I first started 10 years ago, it was 1.24%.
I just wanted to put in a good word for Charmaine. Charmaine works with all of the communities. Like she said, there's over 150 of them. And she knows who is the type that's going to do something like you talked about, and who is the least likely to do something like that. So my advice, if you want to, get a nice broad overview of what's available, call Charmaine or me. We'll connect you with the right people. And this is a perfect example of someone maybe not having a professional guiding them. And the wonderful thing about having Charmaine help you is that her services are 100% free. So there's really no reason not to discuss it with her first, and she can kind of help you stay away from the places that might not run their operation as scrupulously as someone else would.
I'm a mandated reporter, so is Susan and Gary. And so I want to be your advocate forever. I want to be your guide. A lot of times I move people into the bigger facilities and they need the higher care, and the families call me back. They know to call me back. And then we'll go look at the small homey-like settings. But I have everybody's state inspection report. So I know how good their reputation is, what the right pricing should be. And it's good, very good, to know that. And I'm kind of the experts out there on what these homes are like. And I do go back. If I see any red flags, I'll report it. I've shut down homes over the 23 years and had FBI come in. And so I'll go back unexpectedly and open up the refrigerator, look behind the toilet. I'm really good at that.
How about another question? I'm going to take the one in the back first, and then I'll get you to.
Usually with the CCRC, when you go in, you have to be ambulatory, at least be able to stand up and sit down by yourself. With the skilled,
RCFE.
yeah, the RCFE that both of you have, can you come in
Yes.
non-ambulatory, or do you have to start in independent and then move?
You don't have to start independent, certainly. I don't think in either of our cases. You can come in directly into assisted or directly into memory care if that's what your condition is. What was the other part of that question? Oh, bedridden, yeah. In assisted living, even in assisted living, we want you to be at least partially ambulatory. You can be in a wheelchair or even a scooter, depending on your ability to navigate with one. But if somebody's bedridden on an ongoing basis, then that's really the line in the sand for skilled nursing.
Or the small homey-like 6 beds.
Or even a place like Merrill Gardens, we can have a bed-bound person as long as they're on hospice.
Oh, yeah.
All right, there's an exclusion for hospice care where you can be bed-bound. We're only allowed to have someone be bed-bound for up to 15 days without being on hospice.
Right.
You can be in a wheelchair constantly, you can go from bed to wheelchair to whatever you need. But if you're truly bed-bound, the limit is 15 days, and then after that, you have to be on hospice care.
What do you do with us, Gary, when we have to go to skilled nursing?
Well, you'll never have to go to skilled nursing. You can go to the little 6 beds, which you would call me back and say, the care that they have at these bigger places are too much for what they can do now. And then we'll go look at the homey-like settings. And if the person's a diabetic and they can't, I can find homes with RNs running the little 6-bed homes that can help with injections. Usually they can queue it up if you're diabetic, point it where it should go, but the resident still has to press the button to make it happen. But if I put them in a home with an RN that's willing to do their 2 or 3 injections a day, then, that's what we look for.
Just want to add that we can go right through end of life with hospice services. We also have 2 nurses on our property that covered 365 days, 24 hours a day. They're on call. They're only there from about 80 hours a week each, 70 to 80 hours. We kind of drive them like slaves because they're important to us and important to our residents. But at one point, it may be someplace that you want, it maybe we're too large, and you may want a smaller 6-bed board and care, but otherwise, for the most part, you can go through end of life with us.
Great.
We have the same is true for us.
We have another question here, gentlemen. Gordon.
You mentioned $1,800 a month for veterans. I guess that's from the VA.
Yeah.
What level of service?
So on the VA,
The Veterans Aid and Attendance.
The aid and attendance, typically you have to have served at least 1 day in wartime. So that's on getting that, and it's called aid and attendance, and I have a company that can get that money a lot quicker, and they're a free service like me as well. So we work with the family on the veterans. If it's a surviving spouse of a veteran, it would be $1,209 a month that the surviving spouse would receive. And usually it's dependent on your assets too. So your assets typically have to be $80,000 or less to get this aid and attendance, not counting your house, not counting your personal belongings, your assets, to get the aid and attendance. But a lot of families put the money in irrevocable trusts if they have more than $80,000. So I work with the families in doing that. That's so we can still get that aid and attendance money for the veteran. It's a special irrevocable trust.
At what level?
great.
And you have to have 2 ADLs, but it's not like Medi-Cal where you try to get that person on Medi-Cal. The only way you can get on Medi-Cal, and the only place that pays for Medi-Cal, is skilled nursing, which can be very depressing, but you have to have less than 2,000 to your name to get on Medi-Cal, and they have a look-back period of about 3 years. But with veterans, they don't look back, but you just have to qualify with the income. So we kind of work around the income so you can still apply for the veterans.
Carol.
Yes, Charmaine, I'd like to know how we can get an appointment with you to discuss all this.
Yes.
Talk to Charmaine after, we'll be finishing in just a few
And I have in the
moments.
back for everyone here, my business card on a magnet that you can slap on the side of your refrigerator so you always have me. And I've got like a little clip, magnet clip with my information on it when you open up those chips or whatever, and a nice notepad and my business card. So everybody grab one of those in the back before you leave.
Joe.
On independent living, are you allowed to own your own transportation?
Yes, we have many residents that have their own vehicles. You can continue driving, but we have an option for you if you don't want to drive. For instance, if you have an eye doctor appointment and they're going to dilate your eyes, you may not want to drive. We can do that driving for you. We have a bus that's running 7 days a week. We also have a concierge with a town car that's there five days a week, so we can get you to off-day appointments. We have doctor appointments twice a week. We have shopping twice a week, excursions, and all kinds of things like that. But yes, you can have your own car.
Yes.
Yes, you can have your own car and you can have your own pet. We
Oh.
accept pets as well, so does
Yes.
Gary. Yes.
Up to a certain size, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question is, if I have a stroke and I need assisted living, but my husband, much younger and healthier, can he keep the house or do they take the house? How do you?
Oh, nobody's
No.
taking anybody's house. If
He
you,
can still live independently and I can be there
Right.
and we can use up all of our money and Edward Jones and they still won't kick him out of the house?
Exactly.
Oh.
Okay, so these are some of the questions that you're going to want to get a free consultation with one of our panelists or sponsors, depending on what your need is. I want you to know that if you lose everybody's phone number, hold on to me, hold on to my contact information, because I have a direct line to everybody, so you don't have to remember everything right now. What you think is important that you're learning today, in 2 months from now, might be completely different. parent because life happens. So just keep my name. We have materials in the back. I am a downsizing coach. We'll help you from beginning to end. And so we hope that you got something out of today's seminar. Do we have one more question?
Well, it's just a comment. I found your ad in New Times, and I had no idea who your presenters were, but my neighbor moved to the Villages 3 months ago, and healthy but lonely. He lost his wife, and he had too big a home, and he was smart enough, retired Cal Poly professor, to say, I need somewhere with activities. And he loves the Villages. And it was the
You won't be lonely long.
No, he was very, he moved, and then I have friends that moved into the Merrill Gardens when they were healthy, and they love it, and they are so busy, their kids can't get in to see them.
That's the feedback we
One
get.
last thing, Charmaine helped me tremendously in October during a crisis, medical crisis, 300 miles away, helped me relocate my brother up here. Huge help.
She's the best. She's the best. I know there's other placement agencies, but she is the best.
I
Yes.
just want to thank you for the great seminar. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You guys are so smart to be here and getting these questions and us thinking about the future.
And we hope that we've answered your questions. If not, please feel free to contact any of us. We have business cards and information in the back as well. All of our services are also free to you. I always tell people, don't be afraid to come in and tour with us. But if you don't want to tour and you have questions, feel free to call me. I'm glad to answer anyone's questions at any time.
Okay, well, I hope that you all got something out of today's event and that you will consider me a resource if you need some real estate services. And as a downsizing coach, our aim is always to take the overwhelm out of whatever your situation is and help coordinate every step of the way for you and with you. The good news is we do not charge anything at all for the extra services if you do hire us as your realtor. And I'd like to thank my panelists. You know, you were all invited today because you all share the same values and desire to equip older adults and their families as we do, and to give them the knowledge they need to make informed decisions. And we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here today. So let's give them all a big round of applause.